Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Happy Friday, folks, and thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, I'm going to give you the latest developments around the student debt relief that President Biden was trying to institute and now maybe put on hold. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, can we talk about, we're going to introduce our segment. Tell us what we're missing. We're going to be checking in with one of our online culture crew members, Taylor Ferguson, as she talks about what's happening at a Philadelphia juvenile detention center and why the city of Philadelphia is suing the state of Pennsylvania for the conditions there. So we'll have that conversation. Later on, President Biden talks about empathy fueling democracy. Do you agree with that? Do we need more empathy to make democracy work? We'll have that conversation and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Peace and welcome to the culture right here on your Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Friday, folks. Woo! Woo! It couldn't have come sooner. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. We have a great show lined up for you as we're going to discuss a number of topics. So I want to invite you to join us in our chat, to be a part of our online culture crew. Y'all know what it is. Check us out as we're streaming live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, you can go directly to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. And let's do your part to be a part of today's big conversation. Plus, today we kick off our new segment, Tell Us What We're Missing. We're going to kick off with one new online culture crew member, and this is the beginning. This is just the beginning. I can't wait to have that conversation. But first, let's talk about what is going on with the issue of the national student debt relief that President Biden had promised and had moved forward on. Now, folks, apparently the debt relief that was supposed to relieve millions of Americans of $10,000 to $20,000 worth of student loans is put on hold. Take a look at this, folks. This is the latest here from CNN. It says that the student loan borrowers are now waiting indefinitely. What student loan borrowers need to know about after a federal court struck down Biden's forgiveness program. Wow. So already you and me, we may not even get our student loan debt relieved already. Here's what CNN reported on this, and then I want to get your take from my online culture crew. It says student loan borrowers are now waiting indefinitely to see if they received debt relief under President Biden's student loan forgiveness program after a federal judge in Texas struck down the program Thursday, declaring it illegal. The Department of Justice immediately appealed to the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, but that case will have to play out before the Biden administration can cancel any federal student loan debt under the program. Now, while the Biden administration has faced several legal challenges to the student loan forgiveness program since it was announced in August, the ruling on Thursday is the most significant setback thus far, prompting the Department of Education to stop accepting applications for debt relief. The Texas decision makes it more likely that the issue will ultimately go to the Supreme Court, though it is still too early to say. And this is according to Abby Sheffoff, who's a staff attorney at the National Consumer Law Center. This is the face to that news, folks. Wow. Might be illegal. Wow. Can I say, wow. Check this out. You know how many applications have already been received about relieving the debt of current former students? 26 million. Wow. So, folks, we might need to have an alternative plan to deal with this situation. 26 million people have already applied. And guess what? All of those applications have to be put on hold. Wow. All right, what's your take on this, folks? Join us in the chat as we talk about this issue. You can join us on YouTube, Facebook, and we would love to hear what your take is. So this is just, uh, uh, it's sad. It's sad. Now, here's the thing about the illegal situation, like whether the government or the Department of Education, i.e. the government, should be able to intervene like that. Y'all remember Republicans were talking about this, that, oh, it's illegal to do something like this. And here's my thing on this. Here's my take on it, and y'all share with me what your take is very quickly. Because this hasn't been done before, it doesn't necessarily mean it shouldn't be done at all. All right, I'm gonna say that one more time, y'all. Because it hasn't been done before, doesn't necessarily mean it shouldn't be done at all. You know, it's like, this is like the thing of government evolving to the people's interest instead of the people's interest being suppressed by government. Am I looking at this thing wrong? Y'all tell me. Am I looking at this thing wrong? Because I feel like, okay, even though it's in uncharted territory, even though this hasn't been done before, at the end of the day, is it needed? Is it necessary? Will it help Americans? Simple questions. Simple question. Will it help Americans? And look, not only will it help Americans, it will help America. Now, there's only a small number of people. I mean, you know, we got everybody is not a student. So, but imagine if you got 26 million applications that are already been submitted, and you had 26 million people who were able to get out of some form of debt or able to take down some of the debt. How does that not help America? Okay, let's go to you as my online culture crew. All right, let's hear this. You don't like my music. Kick this off today. You said, I thought legislating from the bench was a bad thing. Come on, bruh. You know that's right. You know that's right. That's crazy. Great point. You don't like my music. I like it. I like it a lot. Kick this off on a strong start. Jesse, good to hear from you. Sound like a first-time watcher, and I'm happy to have you joining us in a conversation. You said, why do we expect anything less from what clowns are doing? Ouch. They know that this would affect Black folks mostly, and it would help us tremendously. Think about it. Absolutely. We've had conversations on that about this, Jesse, and you're absolutely right. Now, is it now? We can't. I mean, we can assume that, oh, okay, they're doing this because they don't want to help Black folks, or they can assume that they don't want, or it could just simply be, this is a good idea for America at this time, and they don't want President Biden to be the one to get the credit for it. Right? It could be one or two, or it could be that they just want to keep us in debt so they can profit off of us. The courts and corporate America and the banks all working together. If we want to go down that rabbit hole, could be a number of things. But I see your point, Jesse. I see your point. But again, this would help America. All right, let's go to Jesse. Appreciate you. Sharon, let's go to you. You said the sad part was that they were supposed to start processing today. Come on, Sharon. They dropped. Come on. Exactly. That is sad. Very sad. And it's Friday. It's supposed to be happy. TC, thank you so much for checking in. It seems like you're a first-time watcher as well. Join us in the conversation. Love it. This is not even a lot of money. And no. Well, in the big scheme of things, it is to individually, yeah. But see, you got to adjust the system. And again, this goes back to my point, TC, I think, of government evolving with the people and not the people being held back because of government. But I see your point. It's not a lot of money. America spends money like, I mean, we put more money. We probably put more money in sports building stadiums. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start to think about it, we give countries more money, other countries more money. So TC, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Adam Ocean, I think that's how we say his name. Adam, you said, but like, why? When you take a loan, you sign and you are expected to pay it back. So you're saying that we shouldn't even have student loan debt? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. We shouldn't even have student loan debt relief. Here's the why, and here's why I think it's important that we have it. One, it saddles people in a state where they can't move on in their lives, right? Like sometimes the student loan debt, you should not be quote unquote penalized for simply wanting to be educated. That's the wrong message. And I'm saying the penalty is you here you are 18 through 21, 18 through 22, whenever you go to college, right? You go into college, you got this idea that the future is bright. You got this idea that things are going to be on the up and up, and then you're saddled with this debt, right? So you're like, all right, I got to take down this debt. Now this debt becomes a barrier for you to rent a place, possibly get a car. You know what I mean? Get a credit card, and it becomes this ball and chain that you're attached to for years of your life. For years of your life. Now, people have certainly paid off the debt. I get that. But then there are instances where, when you pay off that you may have intentions to pay off the debt, you might be able to do it, then you lose your job or some other life moment happens, and then you need some help. You kind of get set back. I'm just saying, consider that. If I'm understanding your point on that, Adam, thank you for checking in. Nature over everything. You said, God dang it, Biden couldn't even deliver on that with the laughing emoji. Well, here's the thing. Is it Biden or is it the courts? Biden put it through. Now you got people who are challenging it. So I don't necessarily want to put that on Biden's doorstep. I wouldn't say, oh, he didn't get it done. I think he did. Now we got to look at the judicial branch and say, judicial branch, you mean to tell me that this might be illegal? Again, even though we've never done it before, doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it now. Will and C100, you said this should be the one thing that shows everyone in America where America is headed. If we don't stop these batches, folks right now in the next 20 years will be just like any other foreign country. Facts. We got a lot to talk about with that. Yep, you're absolutely right. Timothy Pearson, good to hear from you. Seem like another first-time Culture Crew member. Appreciate you. You said, why was there no tax cut for the rich in 2018? Whoa, why was the tax cut in the rich in 2018 wasn't blocked? I'm gonna let you think on that, Timothy. I'm gonna let you think on that because you're right. I mean, see, this is the part I'm getting at. And this is why I think this is crazy, right? Because we have these conversations about about the rich and those who aren't rich, the haves and the have-nots and all of those things. And it's unfortunate that we do live in a country where even though the rich are quote unquote taxed higher, they still are able to find loopholes to get taxed lower than the person that works each and every day, who works hard for a 5-figure salary or 6-figure salary. And then, they can't find them loopholes. They can't take advantage of those loopholes. Appreciate you, Timothy. Thank you for checking in. Janae, you said, why people blaming Biden? No, I'm not blaming Biden. When it's not real legislation versus executive order. He tried, but they love going to the courts about and for everything. Ask Trump about it. Stop blaming Biden and the Democrats. I hear you. I don't think this is a Biden issue, a Biden problem. I think this is a court problem. I think this is, and like I said, some Republicans have even said this is illegal. So I think this is a problem for the other side more than anything. And the courts are biased, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we always talking about the blind system of justice, right? You got that great statue where the woman is holding the scales and she's blind. And it's unfortunate because these courts are so biased. They're so partisan. So we got to look into that. Appreciate you, Janae, for saying that. RG3, you say, we don't want money from the government anymore. Who don't want money from the government? Who don't want money from the government? I'm just asking. Who don't want money from the government? Because here's why. Some of the government's policies has caused us to be in financial straits. Who don't want money from the government? I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. Please, when those COVID checks was coming out, when tax credit checks was coming out, people wanted that. You talk bad about them, but you took that money. You damn sure took that. Jayla, my sister, good to hear from you. You said all the more reasons for all the people in Georgia to vote for Warnock, especially the college students. Yeah, how about that? You got to have certain people in position to be able to move on this situation. And this is, again, this speaks to the partisan divide of Democrats and Republicans. Crazy, crazy. Kim, you said we should have a guaranteed 4-year college paid by the government. Hey, Kim, this is for you, Kim. This is for you, my sister. Look, check this out, folks. If we don't go to college, then we can't get the skills, we can't get the knowledge to move this country forward. If we don't go to college, we don't position our country in a position of innovation. We can't put them in a position, put this country in a position of progression, right? There can't be no real future. You can't have people struggling for the basic human right to be educated. That's a human right. This is not about class. This is not a privilege. This is a right. This is a right. And here's the other part about it. What about the mixed messages, Kim, that people often give, right? They tell you, oh, go to college, go to college. You go to college, especially if you have a lot of first generation college students, right? But then you're like, hey, I know you're first generation, but you need to pay up on this money. And education, let's also put it where the ghosts can get it, folks. Education should not be so high to the point where it becomes a deterrent for people to become cultivated, and more importantly, for them to enjoy the human right to be educated. It shouldn't be that damn high. You can go to colleges in other countries. There are places around the world that teach medicine and engineering, and places around the world that teach the arts and the sciences, right? Great colleges don't cost nearly half as much as some of these schools in America. Kim, thank you for checking in. PGH412, you say, so you can take my taxes and send my money to Ukraine, but I can't get some relief on a student loan. Make it make sense with these clowns' logic. Right. And unfortunately, PGH412, it don't make sense. It don't make sense. Appreciate you. Robin Welch. Robin, you say we have to remember that Biden is dealing with Trump judges. That's the thing. That's why in this election, I hope that y'all, and I know, and trust and believe, when I say this, y'all, this is with true humility to you, right? Because I think we're all in the same place. When you looked at your ballot on Tuesday, for those of you who voted, did y'all see some judges on there? Right? Did you? I don't remember, and I would have to go back. I don't think my ballot said the judge was Republican or Democrat, right? So we don't know where they stand. We just be like, oh, the judge for this court, the judge for that court. And we don't know. We don't know their political views. We don't know who put them there. We don't know their background. And I'm saying that with all due sincerity, like at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? We're just kind of going through the motions. Unless some of us, and I'm sure there are some of you who definitely, all right, let me see this judge and the judges are super important because as we're seeing now, there are more and more conversations about policy that end up in the court. All right, and Crystal, you checked in and said, look at the GI Bill, gave them money to pursue college, buy a house, and whatever else they wanted to do. Yeah. Y'all remember that? Absolutely. Gave them that money, do all of great things. And then guess what? That's how the middle class came into existence. That's how baby boomers were able to support their families and all of that. That's how all of that got kicked off, because of that bill opened that door. And so now we're at a place that situation is so partisan, things are so divided in this country that even the potentially good things people block because they just don't want it to come from the other party. And that's sad. Because when two elephants, well, elephant and a donkey, when they go to war in the jungle, guess who suffers? The grass. That's us. The grass. We get nothing from it, right? So there has to be something else that we need to rely on in this. But in this particular case, regarding the student loan, we're gonna, just have to keep posting on it, and I'll certainly do that here on this platform. But more importantly, just thinking about these things, maybe we need to bring it up into to the conversation relating to, in the conversations with our elected officials that we just put in office. Like, where do you stand on student loan? Are you going to push this a little bit? Can we push this further? Maybe that's what we need to do. But for right now, we just want to have to sit and wait. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about what's happening in Philadelphia. We're going to kick off our new conversation. Tell us what we're missing. We're going to check in with Online Culture crew member Taylor Ferguson, and a whole lot more. Stay with us. That's happening next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat to the Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage. as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We are now going to switch gears as we talk about what's happening with money. We're talking about what's going on in criminal justice. This is a part of our news segment where we ask you to share with us stories that you thought are important that we didn't cover, because we can't cover single thing here on the culture. So we are so happy to open up the platform for you in our segment called Tell Us What We're Missing. And today we're kicking off this segment talking with our online culture crew member, Taylor Ferguson. Taylor, she actually hit me up. She's been so passionate and vocal about, some of the big topics and the issues that we've been talking about. She actually hit me up. And one of the things that she's done, she works in a couple of different capacities. She serves as the founder of an organization called FFEE, which is stand for Feminists for Everyone's Equality, which is a nonprofit that stands up for equal rights for women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, and most importantly, providing a safe space and an opportunity to protest policies and other issues that affect those marginalized communities. But then she also is a part of an organization called CADB. And CABI does its work for justice for the wrongfully incarcerated, trying to fix how inmates are treated in the system and finding outlets and resources for them once they get out of prison. So we would like to welcome to the airwaves of the Black Star Network on the culture, Taylor Ferguson. Taylor, how are you?
How you doing?
Welcome to the show.
I know, I'm excited. We've been talking. I've been so excited.
We've been talking. We are definitely been talking. Taylor, thank you so much for being with us. Now, this situation in Philadelphia, you're in Philly, and you brought this to my attention about this West Philly detention center, where there is a lot of controversy about the conditions. Of course, the work you're doing, Cappy, is, you're looking at what's going on, but this is a juvenile detention center where the city of Philadelphia, who are Democrats, mostly Democrats, is actually planning to sue the state of Pennsylvania, a Democratic governor, because of the conditions in this West Philadelphia detention center. How bad is it? Give us some insight around this.
Well, I work in the city council. So I work with Curtis Jones, which is actually who was in the picture that was just shown. So I'm usually there every Thursday for when those people come in, the constituents come in and they're complaining about how badly it is over there. I heard, from what was told during some of the meetings, like some of the guards have been beaten up brutally. Like it's just been a lot going on. It's so overcrowded. And the only reason why it's so overcrowded is because Pennsylvania hasn't come and pick up the actual juveniles that are supposed to be sent to regular prison or regular jails. So they're just sitting there. Some people, their time doesn't even start until they get to the maximum security system. And since they're not there, they're still just running on regular time.
So what was the catalyst, Taylor, for folks to kind of see what was going on in behind these walls? Like, was there a particular incident? Was a juvenile injured or something happened to bring this type of a light to the situation?
The juveniles aren't even the ones that are like getting injured. It's literally the guards, because it's so many kids that it's just like, it's overwhelming and they're so understaffed. I believe it's only like maybe 17 guards for the whole thing, and they have to spread their time equally within a matter of 7 days. So it's just like they do not have enough staff to take over these like over 200 something kids that aren't even supposed to be there. And it's just very frustrating, and they need somebody to come in and do something. So that's why they believe that this lawsuit is going to make them actually put their foot down and come and get these kids.
So one of the things that I saw in this piece around this lawsuit is that, I think it was a member of the city council there in Philly that said, hey, this is a Democratic city going up against a Democratic governor, but we don't care at this point. It's about pretty much he's saying it's about principle, that this isn't right. Yes. How does that play out? Because now we just had this major election. You are political wonky yourself, right? You're taking the stuff all over. But now that we see this, like, how does this play out for black folks in the city of Pennsylvania, and more importantly, for those young people in the detention center?
Well, the people that are in the kids that are in the detention center, like, this is just driving them to be more and more violent. Like, I hate to say it, but my generation, the one a little bit above me and the ones younger than me, we're more influence driven. So if we see our peers doing this, that, and the third, we're going that way. So it's like, if you see a whole bunch of kids like beating up on a guard, you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Or this is how I'm going to be able to survive while I'm in here. So that's what I'm going to do. And for us as Black people, it's just like not a lot of people know about this. Like, I didn't even know about it until the lawsuit became public. Like, it's been going on for a hot minute now, and nobody knew about it until it became such a big lawsuit between Philadelphia and Pennsylvania.
What's been the governor's response to the lawsuit and to the conditions there?
So far, like, we haven't heard anything, or at least they're not telling me anything. But like, it hasn't been the greatest, just from how Councilmember Jones Jr.'s faces have been whenever the conversation comes up and people ask about the response. It hasn't been looking too good. Right. It's more like, I feel like they're ignoring what's going on because they don't see it as important, but it's very important. People's lives are at stake right now.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And I'm thinking about those young people that are in the center, right? I'm thinking about, and in Baltimore, we had this still might be the case or may not be the case, but there used to be places like, there was a facility called Cheltenham, and Cheltenham was juvenile detention center. It was outside of like the city limits and all of that stuff, but a lot of juveniles from around the state of Maryland would be shuttled to Cheltenham as a way to kind of deal with the issues and as a reformation and reforming them, all of that. But the conditions, the physical conditions, the conditions for those in the center, terrible. And it was notorious. And I remember that governor administrations for the state of Maryland, administration after administration, Taylor, they would say, oh, we got to do something. But then they were very, very slow to doing it. Very, very slow. And I'm wondering, as I'm listening to the story, I'm wondering, like, is this the system? Like we talk about criminal justice from an adult point of view. The two areas I don't think we talk about it enough is the the penal system as it affects women and as it affects youth. I don't think we talk about that too much. With your work with Cabby, am I off base with that?
No, you're like 100% on. They're the two topics that are just not really talked about, and children especially, because it's more of like they're a kid, like let kids be kids, or it's not really seen as something serious. But it's just like, okay, if this child is in juvenile custody right now, like, imagine how they're going to be if they're not really getting help and they're not getting pushed to do better. Imagine how they're going to be as they get older. Like, they're going to be the ones that are causing the most trouble. And we already are like really high up in the gun crimes right now. So imagine how it's going to be when they get out. Imagine how it's going to be when they have kids and they see that their parents are doing this, the music, like, it's so many things that like are being ignored when juveniles are literally like what we need to be focused on, because we're the next generation. When you guys are gone, that's it. What about everybody else? We're all going to die out.
Wow. So, and the other point is that I want to bring in some comments from our other members of our online culture crew. What about the families of those juveniles that are in the center? What are they saying?
Well, a lot of the families, some would rather them be sent to where they're supposed to be so that their time can be up, because obviously they want their kids to come home. There are also always the parents who really, don't care. Like, they figure their kid's going to be in the streets. But then, there's the ones that actually care, the ones that come in during the council meetings and they're like, I need you to get people in here. I need my child to have, better conditions. Like, yes, they're in here because of what they did, but and also some kids aren't even in there for serious crimes. Like, I understand, or not serious, but let's say crimes that have victims. So,
right.
Or, like murderous crimes or things like that, violent crimes. Some kids are in there for like stealing, like something small. Some are in there for carjackings. And it's just like, you should not be in there with somebody who killed somebody like maybe 2 weeks ago. And the parents are just like, I don't want my kid in here. They don't deserve to be in here.
Yeah, the situation in Cheltenham, they eventually closed it. So I'm wondering if the lawsuit, they eventually had to close it because there was just too much. It was just too much controversy. It was not handled properly. And really it showed the level of neglect that the state gave to those students, to those young people there. So I'm wondering if this is heading in the same direction where if this lawsuit doesn't happen, then boom, they're going to say, you know what, we want to close it.
I genuinely hope not, because this is really like, I feel like if they're going to do such a thing like that, we need to have other alternatives. Like, I mean, there's always house arrest. There's always being put on parole. But I feel like they need to have another alternative other than just those things, because some kids don't learn anything from house arrest. Some kids don't learn anything from parole. And then also there's also those kids that don't learn from juvenile but don't deserve to be there. So they need to find something that's right in the middle so that you can still learn something, but you're being punished for what you did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent point. All right, let's go to some online culture crew members to hear what they say as we're talking to online culture crew member Taylor Ferguson about what's happening in a Philadelphia juvenile detention center. Okay, let's see here. I think his name Jakali. You said some people need to be in jail, but for many others, alternative solutions are needed. And I think that goes to the point, Jakali, of exactly what Taylor is saying. Like, everybody can't just be at home. Like, you need to move. You need to be taken out of the home, out of your community, and start the reformation process in a space where you can focus on yourself. Right? Imagine they had that for relationships, Taylor.
That would be nice.
You just got in a relationship. Go here.
That would be nice.
But it's so important. Jakali, I think that you're absolutely right. Belinda, I wanted you posted this. You said the older inmates fight the younger ones. The pay is low was the reason. Some parents stated their children could be released due to petty charges. They don't care about these youth centers. So have you been hearing some words about that?
So there was one instance that I did hear about. I think it was that it's a couple people that ended up getting killed due to some murderous juveniles, and they did get let out. And it's crazy because it's so overcrowded in there that they have to let out some people that actually don't need to be let out. So instead of letting out the people who do petty charges, they're actually still there, while the ones who do the things that are actually going to put others in danger, they're out free, living their lives.
What?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
What? How did?
Yes.
What?
Yes. I'm trying to tell you.
Wait a minute. Hold on. That doesn't make any sense, Taylor.
I'm being so serious. It's like it's crazy because we were just talking about it last Thursday while we were there, and the lawyer that actually works in the office that I work in, she was talking about a certain instance where somebody actually got put out, and they were supposed to be in jail because they killed somebody, but they actually got let out because of how overcrowded the system is, or the center.
Wow. Yeah. So they let out young people who've killed someone. I'm just processing this right now. So they let out young people who just killed someone, but for somebody who may have had a marijuana charge or may have done like a petty robbery charge, they have to stay back in.
Yes. It's crazy.
Crazy is not the word. It is not the word. All right, let's go. Janae, you said, can we stop this rehab work? They're not going to forgive student loans. They're going to really rehab police. It's a joke. We need a new word. It's another place to denigrate them. So what do y'all, so we don't want to use the rehab word. In your work, and as you're like doing your work with CADB, and just in the networking community of those who are fighting to reform the criminal justice system, do you use the word rehab?
Yes, I try not to though, because rehab has, it's two meanings. So I try and say alternative as much as I can, because I feel like rehab is just like you automatically think drugs or alcohol or something like that. So I try to say alternative.
Point. Right. That's an excellent point. Great point. Let me go to now. Let me see here. I think it's Ulumbo the GOAT. You said, I've opened my building, my home to these kind of kids. I preach foundational character and determination, then teach how to use their skills, inform them about mine. So that's and Ulumbo, I appreciate that, because that's not easy work. Everybody cannot do that level of work, right? Can't open their homes, let alone open their hearts. You know what I'm saying? Like to young people who are going through some traumatic experiences in their life. What would you recommend as a young person working in this space and understanding the dynamics of the system and the issues of the system? What are some of the things the community can do to help to create that rehabilitation or to continue or strengthen that rehabilitation process?
Now, it's a lot of things that can be done. As a young person myself, I feel like it's so many outlets that you can use for the kids. It's very hard to say that everybody can go to therapy because not everybody is a therapy person. So it's very hard to say that they can just do that. Some people use like sports as a way, but then you got to think not everybody is athletic. So it's kind of a question of what is something neutral that you feel like will help everybody,
Yeah.
Because not everybody is for everything. We try and do as much youth programs in Philly as much as, we possibly can, because I know it's kind of hard because not everybody wants to do things like that. Because when I was in high school, I thought things like that were lame. But I feel like it's a thing that everybody is so intrigued into. If it's something that's more modern or like, something that's trending, then maybe you might get more kids to do that. But it's kind of hard because, everybody, like I said, it's very influence based. So you got to have a whole bunch of friends go here first before you know if you want to go.
It is at this point, can the state say anything to those young people or to the communities where this situation is affecting? Can the state, kind of position themselves to be better? Can they save face at this point?
I mean, it's not really about what's said. We really need things like running. If anything, we need more people in the facility. I feel like that would make it somewhat safer. If we had more people who are trying to get this job, and like, it's very hard for people to get a job right now. I don't know why, but, I feel like they should be pushing more for people to get into that job. I know a lot of people might not want to because of how violent it is, but I feel like they need to have more open-minded people at that job. They need to have people who work with kids and who know how to handle children, not in that way, but know how to handle kids to be in that position, because they don't need to have people who need a job. They need people who are interested and intrigued in children, not in that way, but are interested and intrigued in children, so where they can change that child, they can help that child, rehabilitate that child, so that they're not in that position again. Words don't do anything.
Go ahead, Taylor. Come on now. Come on now.
Words don't mean anything. We're all about action.
Not nowadays. I need effort. I need consistency.
Yes.
I need to show you give a damn. I get it. Yes. I get it. Hey Taylor, I truly, truly appreciate you bringing this issue to the forefront and to the light of the to our audience here. I truly, truly appreciate it. You're doing some excellent work, and certainly, we're going to try to bring you back on as we look at this issue. That way you can keep us posted about what's happening there and other issues that you're passionate about. But thank you for being our first online culture crew member to join us on air to have the inaugural conversation. Excellent job. So thank you, Taylor. We truly appreciate it. And thank you for being so good for the culture.
You know it. Gotta be here.
Thank you for tuning in. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Let's talk about President Biden says that empathy fuels democracy. Do you agree or disagree? We check in with Culture Crew member Bakari Jones to get her take on that and a whole lot more. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Oh, my gosh, welcome to the second hour. What a great first hour. Hey, look, big shout out to our online Culture Crew. I'm so excited, and I'm very, very happy with Taylor Ferguson giving us the latest updates about what's happening in Philadelphia. And I am super excited about hearing what's going on, the things that we may not be talking about on this show, but they are important to you. So, folks, you're going to see a lot more of the crew, and I can't wait to start bringing it. I got a couple of brothers that checked in with me. They sent me some nice emails, like letting me know seriously. All I know is for them black men, you're coming on next week. Y'all coming on next week. I'm just letting y'all know. You're coming on next week. We got to have these conversations, and I'm so happy to have such a wonderful audience of folks that are just bring so much to the table in terms of insight, analysis, brilliance, and understanding. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, folks, man, I'm excited now. Let's have another conversation. And I got my Culture Crew member, my sister. She is an activist. She's a nonprofit leader. She works in marginalized communities with Black folks, LGBTQ members, and many other groups. She does her work nationally. And I'm just so happy that she is a part of the crew. My sister Bakari Jones is joining us this afternoon. Bakari, good to have you. How you doing, sis?
It's Friday, man. I got my culture gear on.
What?
We gotta have my brother on, Brother Kelvin Johnson out of Baltimore for the Culture Games. It's a board game that teaches us about entrepreneurship and business. So I know. You see,
What?
Yeah, man. I'm excited,
a board
brother.
game about entrepreneurship and business.
I mean,
created by a young Black man.
Yes. Brilliant, brother.
Hey, look, offline, let's make this happen because I got to bring him on. And I want you to join me in that conversation, Bakari. Offline, let's set this up because that's why we have this show. Offline, we got to make this happen. We got to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big Friday. All right, so Bakari, we just went all this week, of course, big election. We had that. I want to first start it off, giving you the space to just share any thoughts that you had. You know, the great thing about being on the show after a major moment is that you can kind of process everything and then give something. So I know you got something to say. What was your take around this midterm election? Because it speaks to what I want to kind of highlight for this next conversation. What was your take of the midterms?
Man, the word that comes to mind is stamina, Faraji. The word that comes to mind is stamina. I think, a long road, right? We culturally, we as a people, we have traversed a mighty long road, and undoubtedly we have a long road up ahead of us. I think there were a lot of wins and losses across the board. I, like a lot of other Black people, I'm not even gonna just say Black women, but Black women especially, woke up, some went to bed on Tuesday night, I think woke up on Wednesday morning kind of grieving for our sister in Georgia. And I'm sure there are folks that, that are even, closer to a level of political analysis to maybe have been able to forecast that or say, we should have known, or we should have seen this coming or that coming. But I think what comes to mind, like I said, is stamina, because the amount of energy, the amount of strategy, the amount of discipline, the amount of consistency that was required to get to the place that I'm gonna say we got in Georgia and still didn't come up with a victory is just testament to, one, how far we've come. And I think in a lot of ways, it kind of gives us a meter to say how much further we actually have to go. So I'll be remiss if I didn't start by saying that. But as you know, I was able to support comm strategy for a sister out in California based in LA, District 28. And it's a super diverse part of the country, super diverse part of the state of California. And I got to participate in a winning team. So I'm still kind of buzzing off of that victory and still holding space for the grief of this sort of collective loss in the state of Georgia. So it just is, for me, is a reminder of the amount of stamina that's required. And I've learned a lot of things at this point, I think, for me in my career, working behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a long game for Raji. It's a long game. And I had a conversation with one of my elders yesterday who said, she said that she's finally at the point now where she's able to have more empathy, keyword for today, right? She's able to have more empathy for some of our Black leaders who have a bit of fatigue, right? When it comes to where they are in the grand scheme of things, because I think in a lot of ways, we lack sometimes the channels of communication to be able to say, all right, I know what's going on the front line, and this is what's going on in this room that everybody that I'm representing on the front line may not have access to, understanding the nuance that's going on. And it's a long game, and that's part of our oppressor strategy, right? Is to exhaust us, is to tire us out. So unless we really have a multifaceted approach to our liberation, I don't think we're going nowhere. And so, Faraji, look, man, it's Friday. I'm in my late 30s, Faraji. I just got to keep it a buck with you. I am just now beginning to understand the role that consistency plays in all of the things that we want to do in this here life that we are given. So consistency is really where it's at. Stamina is where it's got to be for the things that we're doing. And I'm like, we talk about radical liberation. We talk about, the level of change that we want to see in this country. I believe that we have the skills, the talent, the stamina to actually see those things come to pass. But it's a level of like collective awareness and collective discipline, collective consistency that I think is needed. So my hope is that the full scope of the elections, these midterms, my hope is that what is highlighted and what I would hope resonates most with folks is that this is more of like a meter and a sort of a checkpoint in terms of where we are and where we have to go, as opposed to another opportunity for folks to feel further disenfranchised than how they were already feeling. So
and here's the blessing of having you on a Friday after such a long week as this week has been. You gave me hope.
I'd be too much up, Raji. I can't help it, man. I can't help it.
You keep it at 100. I'm gonna keep it 100 and a buck. I felt hopeless after Tuesday night. I'm telling you, on Tuesday night, I went to bed like, man, the heck with this, boy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like, bro, like this is not working. And and this is, I pride myself on being well, I think I am like innovative and progressive and all of those things. But then at the same time, I'm a company man. You know what I mean? Like I understand that you need institutions, you need boundaries and structure and all of those things, right? So when we're looking at what we just saw on Tuesday, and then, you know, you talking about consistency and stamina, you know what I mean? And it's to me, what comes to my mind is like, all right, we can live in that space of being consistent and having the stamina and the momentum. We just need to set a new goal. Because I think right now, I think that Black folks in this country are feeling the brunt of failed attempts, whether it's in policy, whether it's in representation and leadership, whether it's just being seen in general. I think we feel the brunt of constantly being propped up to be hopeful, only to be disappointed again. And it does something to your psyche. It does something to your psyche, man. Like it really, really does. It's like, you know, you getting people to come out to vote, you getting people. And look, the situation in Georgia, for example, Stacey Abrams lost. Okay, that's what happens at election. There's a winner and there's a loser. But then you see the situation. This is the thing that takes me over, Bakari. Herschel Walker. You like, yo, how is this dude in a runoff? How is this dude in a runoff, right? So you get into that place. So that's why I wanted to at least have this conversation that President Biden put out there, because this was a question. There was a question that was posed by the president by our journalist sister April Ryan of the Griot, and she went and had there was nine reporters that the president on Wednesday, when the president spoke about the midterms and everything, there were 9 reporters that the president took into a smaller private room where he can have more intimate one-on-one conversations. She was able to pose 3. One of the 3 was about empathy. Take a look at what she reported on this. Take a look at this, folks. She talked about empathy. And I want us to put that quote up there real quick, Keenan. Thank you. So she said, the Griot's final question to President Biden focused on how he plans to center empathy in a political climate driven by extreme and hateful rhetoric. The exchange was shared on the president's official social media account. I want to play a little bit. Can we play that? I think we should be able to play that. But I want us to pull up what President Biden had to say about empathy.
Order out the issue of empathy or the lack thereof in the midst of this rhetoric, this heated political rhetoric. What's next?
Part of what I think leadership requires, and I hope I meet the standard, is letting people know you understand their problem. Again, my dad used to have an expression. He said, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect them to at least know what they are, understand them. So there's a lot we can do. And the empathy is not just talking about it, it's communicating to people you genuinely understand. And I hope a lot of people don't understand, because I don't want people having to know the pain. But the second piece of that is let them know that you are there to help. You're there to help.
This is interesting, right?
Very.
This is interesting, and I'm going to post this. I want the online culture crew. I want y'all to just share your thoughts on this. So just flood the chats with your thoughts on this. But the first part I think was interesting was that, you know, his father told him that you don't expect the government to solve problems, but you expect them to at least understand the problem. Now, that's his father, different America years ago. You know what I'm saying? Way different America, right? He's also talking about us from a state of white male privilege too, right? There's also that element. But there is a disconnect, I think, because we have always been taught that the government should solve our problems. We haven't been raised on the narrative that the government should necessarily understand the problems. We've been raised on the narrative that the government, you have a problem with this, you got a problem with that. And I'm not talking about just national government. I'm talking about just government from local to state to national. That we've been taught, if you have a problem, you come to your government and we will solve your problem. So I'm not sure, Bakari, if there's that disconnect, there's that disparity there. What did you take from that?
It's tough. One, empathy in a political climate driven by extreme and hateful rhetoric. In my opinion, we are beyond rhetoric. Rhetoric is, the sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's hurt. We have caught a few, Faraji, if I could be honest. We are beyond rhetoric. We are living in a place and time where policies are killing us. And I don't believe that it's extreme to say that, right? It's nuanced, right? We know the physical piece of paper isn't what's taking us out, right? But ultimately the policies that what these policies represent, right? The impact that they have on Black lives. So on one hand, I think it's unfair to sort of inaccurate. I won't say unfair. It feels slightly inaccurate to say that this is extremely hateful rhetoric. It's beyond rhetoric at this point. So I think that we have to say that, for me, at least at the outset. That said, I do believe that as human beings, I believe that empathy is a major key in impacting culture. And impacting culture influences white public opinion. And white public opinion still guides and shapes public policy in this country. So there's space for it. There are breadcrumbs along that line and that path to empathy. And I think that, but this is for me, and I apologize because I cannot remember the judge's name on a case we talked about months ago where remember the judge brought up and invoked President Obama's a quote by President Obama, and it was essentially along the line, right? Like we as Black folks should lean into our empathy and make more space. Right. So to me, I think that when the president makes these statements, it's like, yes, we understand it in a blanket statement, but you need to sort of, in reality TV, when the folks look directly into the monitor, it's like we need him to, in addition to saying these words, it has to be speaking directly to the audience that really needs to hear it, right? That's for me where this is rhetoric. What you
just said, what the president just said is rhetoric?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, right, it's persuasive speaking in a way that's going to quell the audience, is going to quell the noise in a very short-term fashion. But is there much more of anything? Is there substance on the other end of it? And I would argue that if it's not, then it's rhetoric and it's not action. And what we are seeing with our oppressors, right, folks that are creating and enacting policy that impacts Black and brown people, queer people, people living in poverty in this country in the most extreme ways, they're moving beyond rhetoric, right? It started maybe with rhetoric, and then it organized itself into action, and that action wrote policies, and now, right? So to me, I think that we have to, what I would want is, one, for him to be able to say directly who it is that he's speaking to, because there are plenty of us who have empathy, right? And that's why we do the work that we do, because we feel like, right, we feel it. We're able to empathize with our comrades.
Yeah.
The folks that are enacting some of these actions, those are the folks that he needs to be speaking to directly. And again, to me, it's rhetoric against a group of people who are taking action. They've progressed beyond just words.
So I think he may be speaking to that. Maybe when April posed the question, he was thinking about those people and saying, like, from the Trumplicans to others who saying, you know what? Yes, they Trumplicans now. From the Trumplicans to others that they're saying like they need more empathy. But here is this. There is I think there is like a moral component, right? There's a moral, humanistic component to that, because in order for you to be able to empathize with another human being, right, to see life through their eyes, or to truly understand, right? You have to be willing to humble yourself. You have to be willing to put your biases aside. You have to be willing to confront the fact that they're not stupid or they're dumb or some other negative, label because they don't see the world the way you see it, that they're speaking from a place of experience. I mean, there's a very deep process that's at play when you're talking about being empathetic to another human being before you even get into policy.
Agreed. But I think what comes before that
Okay.
is that I feel like the conversation, I mean, and I think we've touched on it, but I think, and Brother Roland has talked about this, right? We see it on the intro for the show. We are also dealing with white fear. And so I think before we can get to humility, before we can get to morality, it's a psychosis, right? It's a belief that this particular group of people who are in power have, and because they are moving and operating with fear, I don't know how you tap into empathy if you are in like survival mode. If you're in, fight or flight or freeze mode, right? And it's not really freezing or fawning. It's fight or flight. And it's mostly fight with this particular group. And I'm laughing, but it's not, it really is not funny. But
right,
for us to be able to get to, like, I agree, right? You have to humble yourself. I do believe that. But I think because they're operating in fear, I don't know that we get there. I don't know literally how we get to that point, right? Because you have to be able to, you have to believe that you're not at risk. You're not, there's nothing that's threatening your survival. And therefore, you can extend empathy to the next person. If you believe that you're in survival mode and you believe that we are taking over this country and we're sending America to, if you believe all of that rhetoric, right, then there's no space for empathy because fear consumes.
No space for empathy. Let me go to our culture crew. That's a great point. That is an excellent point. Corinna, I love what you said, Corinna. You mentioned a couple of things, and I want to just highlight a couple of those pieces very quickly. You said we need empathy to be demonstrated legislatively. No time for empty words and pointless speeches. We want the laws changed, period. Then you said, and still, as recently as Wednesday during that conference, Biden said he is willing to work with GOP. It defies all comprehension. So to your point, Corinna, and I think it's an excellent point, to your point of, empathy needs to be translated. In government, what you feel, how you see the world is translated into policy. That's how it works.
Yep.
If a person is racist, they're going to produce racist policy, create racist policy. If they are prejudiced or biased, that bias is going to be felt in policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're unempathetic, that means that your policy is going to be, because you can't speak outside of who you are or the view that you have, right? So you can't be like, you have this bias or you got racism in your heart. And then you're like, but I'm not, but you're producing policy that affects all people. So that's why we're asking this question. Does democracy need empathy to survive? Because it's a huge part of it. And I made this point earlier this week, Bakari. Democracy is really an idea, folks. There is no quote unquote structure. You don't go to there's no building called democracy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really an idea. And upon just one idea, institutions, systems are created, right? Upon this one idea, there's this sense of belonging. There's this sense of oneness that is cultivated among the people. Upon this one idea, we use it as a guide for all of our decisions and understanding of from legislature to everything else. So It's an idea. So that's why I think it's important, Bakari, when we have these conversations, it's like we got to understand that if we don't believe in the idea, it's not going to work.
It's true.
In order for democracy to survive, there has to be an embrace. We have to embrace certain ideas. And I get to the president's point, you got to have empathy, because at the end of the day, we're living around a lot of different people. Everybody don't think the same, all of that stuff. The differences are blatant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's trying to become that president that's like, no, we can be all different, but we can still kind of, operate from this place of respecting each other's differences. And I don't know if that's the message. I'm not mad at him for saying it, but at the end of the day, I'm like Corinna. I need more than that. I don't need moral victories. Black folks have gotten moral victories for years. Mm-hmm. We know the voting rights bill is morally right, but it's not being updated. It's not being tweaked to the day's time. We know the George Floyd Policing Act is morally right, but it hasn't been passed as a law. You see what I'm saying? There's still some break. There's still some disconnect, I think, that's happening right now, Bakari. And I don't know how we bridge that. Let's go back to the line to hear what other folks are saying. And Corinna, again, thank you so much. Melissa, you said if you don't vote in the correct judges, then you get your college loans denied. Facts. But then you said if we don't work with other minority groups and Hispanics and everyone, we could never win. There's not enough us. There's not enough of us. So now we even looking at, to Melissa's point, you as Black folks, we're still dependent upon, in certain degree, upon other people. And they have to make the first step to become empathetic. I think it's unfair for the government or any other group of people to expect Black people to be empathetic when we're the ones getting the short end of the stick. You ain't talking to me about empathy.
Mm-hmm.
You said it best, Bakari. You talking to them Trumplicans? You talking to liberal whites who may be too afraid to take a stand when it comes down to issues that have disproportionately affects Black people? Mm-hmm. Are you talking to the people in Hollywood or in Washington who are the masters of institution and who are responsible for putting out the messages that in our culture that further affirms the humanity of Black people or dehumanizes Black people? Like, you got to talk to them people about empathy.
Mm-hmm. We're clear. We are pretty clear about it over here.
Man, oh man. Belinda, you said Democrats need to leave every interview, debate, public meeting, plane, crime, mob, nuck if you buck. Okay.
I'm not opposed to it.
All right, Belinda. She like it's Friday. Play nuck if you buck. Ming Lee Natasha Surge, you said I don't think that we deserve empathy. Woo.
Ooh.
Now, Ming Lee, I need some clarity. I don't want to assume nothing. Are you talking about we as who? We as the America? We as Black folks? Who are we talking about? Ming Lee, love to hear what you got to say. Deborah Anderson, you said empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others or another. Because we're way off from there.
Again, that's why. Hey.
I mean, seriously, we're way off from there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you think that we need to have a national call for empathy?
I think that would be a bit wasteful. A pointed, a very specific, strategic request for empathy. I mean, I just don't believe that. I just think that expectation from a demographic of people who, one, again, is guided by fear. I just don't believe that. I just don't even believe in the worthiness, the purpose of that ask. It just seems completely pointless to me. And I don't mean that I don't feel that level of defeat, right? But it just, to me, given what they represent, the Trumplicans, it's a new term for me today. The Trumplicans, that group of people, I just don't believe that it's of any use, and if it is, I think this is another sort of example of folks being responsible for corralling those that look like them. So I don't believe that we're in a position to be able to really impact that group. I think that in order for them to be impacted, to be shifted, to experience, enough of a change, I think that's going to come from reformed Trumplicans who have seen some form of a light and are able to come and, get their kinfolk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me make a correction, because Ming Lee, Natasha, Serge, and I'm glad they brought this back to me, because I don't want to misinterpret. Ming Lee said, I don't think they think we deserve empathy. Right. Right. They think and then Ming Lee also said they just had slave laws on the docket in 2022. Facts. I ain't even want to get into that just yet, but we're going to talk about that. But they don't believe that they think that we deserve empathy. Absolutely. So my correction on that, Ming Lee, Natasha, Serge, and thank you, Damon and Michelle, for that correction. So yes, I don't think they think that we deserve empathy, but I don't even want to put Black folks in a position where we feel like we have to be empathized. Because I think that when people think about empathy, they think of weakness, right? They think of,
unfortunately,
you know what I'm saying? Like it's like forgiveness. It's like trying to understand somebody's plight, or it's trying to understand their pain and their troubles and getting past it. These are words that are very, very powerful. Very, very powerful, but at the same time, I mean, they're powerful, they're healing, but they often are misinterpreted.
I agree.
So Ming Lee, you're right. I don't think they don't think that we deserve empathy, but this is not about us. This is about America. This is not about just Black people. This is about all of us in America. And I'm gonna be honest with you. It would take me some time, Bakari, for me to empathize with a Trumplican.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? Like it would have to take some time. Like it would have to take some time to empathize with people who are just outright racist. That's not healthy for me. I'm the target of your racism. I'm your target of your anger, and you want me to empathize with you? Like, how does that work?
That goes back to us raising that vibration that we are often talking about on these Friday afternoons, from my perspective, right? But I think that I don't know, Faraji, I think that so much of what we are dealing with and talking about, it really is energy, right, on some level. And so the question that I'm often asking myself is, how can I transmute this energy, right? That's a lot of anger. That's a lot of fear. That's a lot of hatred. How do you transmute that? How do you harness it and use what was meant for evil for good, right? So that's kind of the perspective that I take on it. And I do think it takes some work. It takes some elbow grease to kind of find a place in a space. And I think we're in such a blessed place, despite all the things that are going on. The road that our ancestors have paid for us to painstakingly, in blood, sweat, and tears, have paid for us to get here to the point where we are having this free conversation amongst one another in a public space, and to recognize that the same way that you're inspiring and educating people, for me, the empathy comes in realizing, wow, the people that ultimately hate us, that want us killed, were not blessed with those same opportunities to have that level of insight and understanding. Because why would your arms too short to box with God? I don't even know why you would try to set yourself up for that. But that's my perspective on it, Faraji. So I'm present to the level of oppression, but I also recognize that we we cannot afford to stay at that vibration and to operate and to do the work that we're called to do if we're down there. We literally have to transmute it to be able to get more of our own work and our own purpose accomplished. So I think it's easier said than done. I will say that.
Okay.
I don't feel like I'm in the mood to go skipping and going on the Target run with folks. Let me also be clear about that. But I do feel like I'm able to, on a conceptual level, I'm able to understand some of that. You know what I mean? In enough of a way, I'm able to kind of put it in a box and operate around it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is part of this thing. But again, this feels more moral. This feels like something beyond just policy and legislator. And I think what President Biden is trying to do is bring a humanistic value into the national conversation, which is fine. But you gotta recognize when you're dealing with human beings, and then when you're dealing with beasts in human form.
Levels.
I mean, let's just keep it real.
Levels.
Let's keep it real. If you're talking to human beings, it's one thing. When you're talking to beasts in human form, people that block good pieces of legislation because they want a power grab, people that really don't give a damn. They're not there to represent. They're there to usurp. They're there to control. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a beast in human form. You don't believe you don't belong in public service. So I we can and the final point on this for me, Bakari, is that we often kind of fall back on when we have big dividing moments like this midterm. It was another big dividing moment for this country. We often fall back on, these morals and values and principles of justice and empathy and all of this. And I'm like, bruh, please spare the Hallmark expression. You know what I'm saying? The back to school message. Back to school, like, come, spare that, bro, because you want us to get soft when the team on the other side, they got guns and knives and ready to take your hands off. You want us to come at us, well, come on, guys, can't we all just get along? No, bro. Politics is warfare. Politics is warfare. So if politics is warfare, I'm going to empathize with my team, and I'm going to kill the hell out of those who are opposing us. I mean, come on. This is warfare. And I'm a little like feeling a certain type of way with the president by saying that, like, yo, you're not, no. These people, if they had their way, what would America look like if they had their way? You think they would empathize with Black folks, LGBTQ, brown folks, Asian Americans? Do you think they would empathize about our plight and struggle? No. There's a time for empathy, and then there's a time for war. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. There's a time for empathy and the time for war. So, I think that we can keep that in the toolbox, but we in a war right now. We're in a war right now. All right, look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, I want to get your take, folks, as well as my sister Bakari's take on high-profile, influential Black women who have signed a letter to support hip-hop artist Megan Thee Stallion after her recent controversy with Drake using her shooting incident as clout, and how these women are saying that enough is enough, no more using the abuse and the pain of Black women to just make a buck. Do you agree? We'll have that conversation up next. So stay with us. That is coming up next right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, for our final conversation today, I want to talk about solidarity and unity among influential and powerful Black women. There were a number of women who recently signed a letter of support for hip-hop artist Megan Thee Stallion after a controversy around using her unfortunate shooting incident that happened a year ago as part of a song. This happened with Drake just a couple of weeks ago as his new album with 21 Savage dropped. And so Black women of power and influence have decided to come together to say enough is enough about using the plight and the pain of Black women to make a profit. Take a look. This is what they wrote, folks. According to People magazine, the Southern Black Girls Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium published an open statement, a letter in support of the rapper born Megan Pete on yesterday, condemning violence against women and praising her courage. Tarana Burke, the founder of the Me Too movement, Planned Parenthood CEO Alexis Johnson, and commentator Angela Rye were also those signing it, as were the SBWGC's own Latasha Brown and Alice Eason Jenkins. The Griot News host Mark Lamont Hill, a Temple University professor, was its lone male signee. According to the letter, it says, as you risen to the top, you also had to endure a lot of obstacles along the way. In the face of triumph and tragedy alike, you always keep your head held high. maintain your poise, and push forward. However, while so many of us celebrate you for your strength and perseverance, it must be said that you have been treated in ways that no young woman, no person at all, should be treated. The letter focused on how hip-hop culture failed Megan Thee Stallion following the shooting incident with someone she, quote, considered a friend. It calls out bloggers for spreading rumors and enthusiastically reporting on the traumatic moment as if it was fascinating gossip, frequently fostering the notion that she has a reason to lie. It also addresses people who should have supported the anxiety rapper, but chose to stay out of the situation. Wow. Let's bring in Culture Crew member Bakari Jones back into this. Bakari, did you think that this letter needed to be drafted, that this stand needed to be made?
I don't know if I would say need, but I'm so glad that it was. I'm so glad that it was, right? Comparatively speaking, if not saying something is saying something, then yes, I would say there's a need in that regard. So, yeah.
And it's interesting. First and foremost, I didn't know the letter was out. I didn't know a letter was published. Therefore, I would have probably been the second male to sign the letter. You feel what I'm saying? Because even when, and I'm just thinking back to, and I don't know about all of the blogs. I mean, of course, I heard the line that Drake used in his song. This is on off his new album, and I'm totally standing with Megan on this one. I'm standing with Megan. It's like, bro, that's a clown move you just did. You know what I'm saying? Like, you take someone's pain, and I think, Bakari, especially in hip hop culture, we don't think about, and I'm gonna use this term, we don't think about the microaggressions that we put on each other, right? Especially in a moment of tragedy, an unfortunate moment, like the moment of those microaggressions. When you talk bad about a woman who almost could have really gotten hurt, like, I mean, yes, she got her foot shot, but it could have gone a lot differently. And when you think about the pain of that, because that was obviously a painful moment for her. It was a scary moment for her. But I don't think we don't have that level of empathy in the culture. You know what I'm saying? It's like your life becomes fodder, regardless of whether you have positive moments or negative moments. And I think that there needs to be some change to that.
I agree, Faraji. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think, and I'm not sure who made the comment earlier this week, but someone on social media essentially wrote that, if this were a male rapper that was shot, this would not, the way that this incident has been used and referenced and covered would be completely different. It's completely different. So it's unfortunate. And I mean, again, back to the theme of empathy, right? It's not there. It's often not there for Black women. And that we've seen that, again, historically in this country, the sort of denial of the pain of Black women, right? Because we represent such a strong people. It's like, oh, Black women don't feel pain in the same way, right? And this is documented in so many different places, in hospitals, right? Black women rank their pain as one level, and doctors, discount what they say about their pain level, et cetera, et cetera. So unfortunately, it's not surprising given the world that we live in, but I'm glad that these sisters spoke up and represent a level of solidarity. And my hope is that it represents one form of solidarity that I think can continue to grow and build. I mean, especially on the tail end of the midterms, this sort of bridging of culture, specifically hip hop culture, with thought leaders and political leaders and organizers in our country, to be able to see that level of solidarity across the board, to me, bodes well for where we're going from an organizing standpoint and the potential that's there for folks to continue to rally. Black women drive every single thing in this country and in this world. So to me, to show a showing of solidarity, I'm glad. Of course, I would know my brother Faraji is the second Black male to sign.
Oh yeah, I would definitely do it.
That's a given, So to me, I think it's I don't want to say a step in the right direction, but I think it's something that, for me, it's like, it's encouraging to see. And this is rhetoric, but this is rhetoric amongst a demographic that we know is about that action. So,
and speaking of action, and most importantly, this demographic, like I don't know if this could be a moment where we can kind of grow up, have a mature conversation about the treatment of women, a mature conversation about, whether a person, the big thing, of course, is whether she's lying or not, right? Having a mature conversation about the quote unquote, the so-called bro code, you know what I mean? Because of Tory Lanez and Drake and their connection into Toronto and all that stuff. Like, we need to have some different conversations about these elements that are still pervasive in our culture, right? That kind of undergirds this whole situation. And when we can't have these discussions, it manifests itself in a very ugly way like this. I remember when Rick Ross had a line that, he said he put Molly in the joint and then she didn't even know it. Like, well, bro, if she didn't know it and you going Bill Cosby on her, that's rape, bro.
Facts.
That's rape. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's it.
Like that's not nothing you should put in a song, bro. You basically intoxicated her where she essentially could not
consent.
Period. To you performing some sexual act, and she didn't even know, bro. That's not cool. I mean, he got some backlash for that, but it just goes to show that the culture, hip hop music and culture, has to grow up. Like there are certain things that shouldn't be just a punchline, shouldn't be a bar.
Yeah, at all. It just should be off limits. It just should be off limits as a showing of solidarity with a demographic that, the thing that's interesting for Raji, for me, from a background, from a business standpoint, Black women represent key demographics for so many industries. If you can get Black women, and we're brand loyal, we're loyal in general. So when you get Black women locked into, whatever it is that you are, whatever your product is, your service, whatever, once Black women are locked in, most of these entities recognize that Black women are going to continue to stand with and support you, your entity, your product, whatever it is. So to not see this level of respect to this key demographic, which drives so many different, literally you can identify trends based on the actions and the decisions of Black women in this country. So to see a lack of solidarity amongst the hip hop community, I think it's unfortunate. To me, I feel like seeing this letter, like I said, I feel like this for me is the time and the space for empathy. You know what I mean? It's within, I view it as within the culture, right? So I think, yes, empathy amongst one another. I mentioned it before, but Bell Hooks on Men and Masculinity, that text talks so much about the level of pain that Black men and masculine people have endured, and sort of everything that needs, many of the things that have to be sort of uncovered in order for Black men and masculine people to be able to tap into empathy for themselves and then be able to extend it to others. And I think we are experiencing such a grave disconnect amongst ourselves culturally. I think it is just really hard for people to tap in. And as I said before, right, so folks are in survival mode, which I would imagine that maybe it's character, but maybe it's survival mode. And you're thinking, if Drake made this song, Drake is the hottest rapper, I need to be in alignment with him based on, a financial decision. And so you make a decision that I would imagine for a lot of people would be outside of their character because it's denigrating another Black woman. But if you're not grounded and you're in survival mode, then you're not thinking clearly about what's the best decision for the long term. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's go to some of our online culture crew members. Hotep Pan Africa, you said the Black woman is the most vulnerable and least protected of anyone in this settler colony. RR, can't deny you there, Hotep. RR, you said the blogger said Meg was lying. Some of them will do almost anything for clicks and views. It's called clickbait. You're right. Michelle, I like what you said. You said, I think Drake and the producers should remove those lyrics from the track, just like Beyonce graciously removed the lyrics from her song after the backlash. Now that's a great point. I don't know, Michelle, if we're going to see that. I don't know. If Beyonce and Lizzo, two of the hottest Black women in both popular music, right? Popular in R&B, but just Black music.
Mm-hmm.
If they're able to go back into the studio, make some adjustments to that records and put them back out because of a small group, and I'm not diminishing, I'm just saying this community is saying, no, that's offensive, then yeah, I think that would be a great idea if Drake were to go back into the studio and to do it. Now, will he do it? No. I don't think he will. I think disrespecting women is a part of hip hop culture. Whether it's Black women, white.
That is part of hip hop culture, which we have seen. It does not have to be an element. It does not it's not one of the foundational elements of hip hop, right?
No.
But I know what you meant though. But I will also, I think we're saying that that Drake also sampled R. Kelly on his last album. So it's like we already know that he doesn't love Black women. We know that. So, to me, it's unfortunate. And I think Megan is right. I think Megan Thee Stallion is putting herself in a category where she is able to really kind of, I don't know if we're going to get there lyrically. I'm not a lyricist. I don't want to come at the sister's music, but I think she's putting herself in a category where, she has some bars that she could come up with about these ninjas coming for her clout, coming for her based on, using her name for clout. That's the way that she has phrased it, using her name for clout,
and just not even just, it's not even just the what Drake said. Lil, I want to make sure I get it right. It's not Lil Baby. It's Da Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Da Baby said something about Megan as well in his recent album, talking about how he slept with her so many times. Like he said it in like, yeah, and I got with Megan too. And then he kind of like throws shade at her boyfriend on the track. And it's like, bro, this so-called masculinity, right? This is toxic, right? And I know I've been hearing that term, toxic masculinity, but it really is toxic. Like no grown ass man is going to get on a music track and then brag about how he been with this one woman. I mean, okay. What are you trying to say? Like, yeah, I got a piece of her before you did, bro.
Toxic masculinity culture. We also got to say, just because, shout out to Megan, so we're going to come at anybody that's coming for her. Wasn't the baby also just selling tickets 2 for 1 to their concert?
Bakari, the man can't sell out a damn arena now.
Yikes.
And this is no joke. Look, they literally did a story and said he can't sell out an arena. Not because, you know what I'm saying? Like the music needs to reflect some level of evolution in your consciousness, right? Like you can't keep beating up on Black women and then expecting Black women to keep supporting you.
Nope. It's not.
Now I don't understand it. Look. This is the big thing that I don't understand, because this is a bigger conversation. We don't have time today, but I've seen it and I get it. Black women will get into the car, turn on a song that will say all types of madness about their value, their body, degrade them. They going along, they just singing it. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? And it's like there's got to be something line drawn. There got to be something said, because it's not working for us. You know what I'm saying? It's not working for it. It does not cultivate a healthy respect for the woman, and it certainly don't cultivate a healthy respect for the man.
That's true. It's true. But I mean, the music reflects the times, though, right? Like the music reflects.
Right.
So that also means, what is it that we have to do culturally to shift the actual scene that song was written in, right? Like I think that becomes a part of the larger conversation. But it also means that, you know, a lot of other cultures that I think are able to create music that doesn't denigrate themselves, and at least I think many of us understand why that's the case in our country. And it's not to excuse it, but I do think that we have to understand exactly what it is that's going on and why producing music like this is by design. We know these are the artists that are being funded. Like we get all of those pieces, but I think that when we get to a space where it is impacting the safety of Black women, right? Because it's all fun and games when somebody is just dancing to a song. It's very different once we sort of cross that line, and now we're you know, someone's physical safety is being threatened. And this is, you know, unfortunately where it looks like it has gone. And I feel like I don't know, to me, for things to get to the point where somebody was actually shot, that's extreme. You know, I know as much gun violence as we talk about in this country, it still is very extreme, you know. So to laugh about it and to joke about it, it's like we wouldn't be joking about any of these school shootings in a song. You know what I mean? Why when it comes to a Black woman are we able to make a one-line jab about it and that's cool and everybody's supposed to keep it moving as if that's, you know, business as usual? It just wouldn't go down.
Well, absolutely not. Marcus Jackson, you checked in and said this goes back to the empathy conversation. Black women have been seen as the, quote, mule of society, and thus it's okay to bash them because they can take it. Black women deserve extra empathy. Marcus, I'm right there with you. Tia, you checked in and said, look, after decades of singing songs that call our women hoes, what the hell did we expect? Our boys are being taught to disrespect their own, and frankly, the reverse is sometimes true.
It's tough.
See, this is very tough. That's the conundrum, right? Like, you don't want to call a woman the B word, but then the women call themselves the baddest B. But then it's like when the women say it, they're like, no, I'm saying it in the. But I'm just saying. Now, look, I get there are layers to this, right, Bakari?
I know who I'm talking to. Okay.
So there are layers, right? I get it, but I'm just making the point. Yeah. If you were talking to children, like if you were talking to my 9-year-old son, and I teach him, you do not call a girl or a woman the B word. Yes, Dad. But then he hears a girl or woman refer to herself as the B word. Well, Dad, I thought you said don't call them, but why did they call themselves that? And I'm saying, imagine having a conversation with a 9-year-old boy, Black boy, about something like that. Like, how would you explain that? How would you reconcile? Well, son, technically, they can call themselves. like you look crazy in your child's house. Like, your child cannot, like, wait a minute. It's how. And I mean, I know it. I know that that's a part of our cultural vernacular. I get all of that, right? How women present themselves. Everybody can do it. But you say, well, women can express themselves the way that they want to. Y'all certainly can. That's not a problem. But people don't, and I'm saying men, let me keep it 100 and a buck with y'all. Men don't always know how to differentiate. If a dude is constantly feeding on certain messages, he's not going to be able to differentiate between using a term. He's going to assume that regardless of if you work in a corporate job, you work in a classroom, you working on a corner, they all B's.
And this is, I mean, again, another conversation about, and I'm not even going to just say men, I'm going to say men and masculine people, about nuance, right? And some of this is also, so much of this is about communication and consent. the possibilities once we introduce consent into the conversation. There's so many different conversations we can have. Can I say that? Am I not allowed to say that? How do you feel when I say that? I shouldn't say that. Like, we have to have an actual conversation, and I think that's, again, bell hooks on Men and Masculinity. If you have opportunity, it's on audiobook. Change your life. But the conversation, again, a lot of, men and masculine folks, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but I think that we have to start having some of these conversations. The other part of this, and I don't want to necessarily give too much light and space to Tory Lanez, but I also, after, everything that happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock, like, there's enough happening in popular culture that I'm also like, where is the conversation with men? And I would argue masculine folks as well, not to, I think we can go beyond the binary to include masculine people as well. But where are the forums, where are the conversations and dialogues happening about what's beneath all of that, right? Like, that's a lot of pain. That's a lot of trauma. That's a lot of hurt. We're projecting it onto Megan, but we're not going to, there's a lot happening, Faraji, that we could be talking about that is just not being addressed. And I feel like it's beneath the surface. So even I agree, right? The conversation that you got to have with your son around the nuance there, but it's also what would make you want to call a woman that you don't know or are not in relationship with to be in the first place? That's really a conversation. So it's multiple dialogues that we could be having.
Oh man, multiple. And many people are checking in on the chat and they're saying we can apply the same principle to the use of the N-word. You know what I'm saying? You can apply the same principle to the use of the N-word, which I agree. I totally agree. I feel the same way. But see, I think the thing that we want to, and this is how I keep the situation, I feel like this is how you keep the situation grounded, Bakari. Would you want your children to call each other that? Would you want your children to call someone else that?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want your girls, your daughter, your niece, your granddaughter to act like that? If a boy in your daughter's class, she 10, 12, 13, 14, a boy say, yeah, you one of my B's, what would you say to that girl? See what I'm saying? Like, is this, are we, and here's my final question. Are we so beholden to that label or to those terms, whether you're talking about the B word or the N word, are we so beholden to that label that we don't want to, that we're willing to pass that on to the next generation? Is that term so important to pass on to the next generation? And guess what? If your logical mind in grown folks' mind, without a shadow of doubt, no black man, no black woman would say, I want my son to be referred to as the N-word. I want my daughter to be referred to as the B word. Nobody is going to come out and say that. Because why? Inherently it does something. It is inherently disempowering. We got to say that. I mean, come on. I mean, look, I'm not trying to be like, holier than thou and none of that. I'm just saying, like, since we are the culture, then we need to correct the culture. Like, we have the right to say, yo, this ain't working for us. And it's okay. People get those, oh man, this is just part of our culture. Okay, but there are elements in our culture that are fucked up. Like, come on. Like, you don't want to pass on certain things. Like, I don't want to pass on disrespect. I don't want to pass on self-hate to my children. That's and then we're going to be like, man, it's messed up, man. Black people can't, our culture is all, bro, we teach them that when we were babies, when they were babies, bro. All of it comes back to when they were babies, somebody taught them it was okay. It's okay to call a girl a B word. It's okay to call each other N words. It's okay to disrespect women. Something happened along the way. Come on, man. Let's stop playing. Let's just stop playing. This ain't good. This ain't good. And you can, as an adult that's been around on this earth by the grace of the God for a little time, You can't convince me otherwise that this is good, because it ain't. Yeah. This ain't good. All right. It's so much, Makari, but to your point, so many levels. So many levels. And I know damn sure that none of us will ever go into a space of house of worship. We would never go to the Creator. We would never refer to ourselves as those things. I know damn well we would.
Come on, Faraji. Let's
keep it real. Let's keep, again, this is not being holier than, I'm just looking at, if there are some elements of our culture that are destructive, then when do we let those things go? Whether it's in hip hop music, whether it's in film and television, whether it's...
Is it on the plate? Is it a low vibrational plate for Raj?
So, hey, look, that joint's so low, the dog is eating from the plate. You know how you put it all the way down on the floor for him?
Woo. Man.
We with the dogs, and it'd be like, damn, bro, like you ain't grow up yet. I'm telling you, it gets to my, hey, Bakari, you and I have had conversations offline. This stuff gets to my soul, you know? It gets to my soul, man, because I see, and again, I'm going to say this. Let me say this very quickly, and then we can jump on. Go to a Black neighborhood, go to a Black school, or go to a prison, and you will see the end result of men and women who have submitted themselves to the destructive elements of our culture. You'll see boys and girls go into those spaces. A Black neighborhood, go into a school where predominantly Black children are, and go to a prison. And you will see how serious this situation really is. I'm talking about how deep the destructive elements of our culture can really go into shaping human beings.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, we're going to be able to see it.
I think so. I think we just got to push it. We just got to push it, right? Voices like, you know, this platform, bringing on voices like yourself and others, we just got to push it. So I think there's a lot to it, but I'm glad that the sisters are standing up with Megan. I definitely stand up with Megan. I'm glad that there's a letter to put out there. But my hope is that it just doesn't become, like you mentioned, rhetoric. It becomes into something much more tangible. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, because it's getting out of hand. It's getting so far out of hand that it's getting. What do we often talk about when the situation gets so far out of hand? It becomes normal. Like when you normalize dysfunction.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if there's a term for that, but that seems like the best way to describe it.
Yeah, sounds about right. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, and again, we're numb to so many things. For me, I don't know why hearing anyone, women included, refer to women as females is somehow, for me, more triggering than the B word.
Wow.
That's a conversation for another day, because I think maybe because I recognize the nuance within a enclosed group, right? However, whatever term or degree level language, like within that internal group decides to, you know, put on that language compared typically to the way that folks use the term female. I've only heard it, right? Like, I've only heard it in this derogatory fashion. I've heard the B word and the N word used in celebratory fashion, right? I do feel like Black people have the ability to manipulate words and language in that way. That, again, another conversation for another day, Faraji.
Absolutely. And RR checked in and said, Lil Baby, who's a 20-something-year-old, won't use it in his music because he don't want to hear his white fans singing. Woo! Singing it to him. He got more sense than the Generation X rappers. That's the other part that we didn't really touch on, but we can't. But can you imagine if you are a hip-hop artist, you calling the Black women out, you calling her the B word, you say she lying, and then the white men in the audience rocking to your joint. They're like, yeah, she is a B. She does lie. Can you imagine that? Like, what that mentally does? and you rocking out, or you using the N-word and you rocking out. Yeah, that's my. And then we get mad. Then we get mad when we read stories of white college students dressing up in blackface, dressing up at the KKK, or using the N-word around their black friends, and then their black friends get upset, and then next thing you know, it's an issue, it's a situation. Come on, yo. 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 Come on, yo.
It's tough, man. It's tough for
It's very tough. Very, very tough. Bakari, I appreciate you. You know I got nothing but love and respect for you. Thank you so much. Anything that we need to keep up on, and especially in the work that you're doing?
Just launched a new site, BakariJones.com.
There we go.
Would love to talk to you about it. I'm producing a show in January. Laura Rube. Laura is a Baltimore word for little. It's Rube Goldberg that's gonna talk about or display the level of steps that Black, queer, and trans youth have to traverse to get housing and transportation and employment. Rube Goldberg is a convoluted machine that does something real simple in a convoluted way, and that sort of mimics the path that a lot of Black, queer, and trans folks have to endure in order to find stable housing and employment and the like. So yeah, BakariJones.com. Look me up. I'm available for support with. Boom. That's it, Faraji. So yeah, check me out. If you need help with your website, public speaking, coaching, facilitation, I got you.
Awesome.
That's it.
That's it right there. Hey, look, I definitely want a big shout out to you for continuing to do the work, redefining yourself, and more importantly, putting yourself in a position to be in those spaces to have these discussions. But I would love to learn more about that Little Root program, to talk about some of the issues that queer and trans youth go through, so we can have a better understanding, so we can learn some empathy, right?
Come on, that's it.
Come on, man. Like if nothing else, we need to hear people's stories. Let's humanize this language and these terms that we all let's try to understand, especially because it's young people. They got to have a space. So I would love to talk more about that. But keep up the great work, Bakari. And you got full support from us here on The Culture.
Thank you, brother. You do the same, man. Thank you for having me once again, Faraji. Have a good weekend.
Absolutely. You too. Appreciate you. Thank you. Peace. Bakari Jones checking in as always. Folks, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed the show today. Hopefully you learned something. You feel like your conscience was elevated a little bit. Hopefully you feel better about the culture. Yeah, folks. We are always doing something. Big shout out to Taylor Ferguson, our first online culture crew member that checked in today. Excellent job in reporting and talking to us about what's going on in the West Philadelphia Juvenile Detention Center. Again, folks, I got some brothers I got to bring on next week. So they don't know who they are, but check us out. They're going to be really fascinating. And I think you will definitely enjoy the conversations we're going to have with them. So expect that next week. Also, we got some special guests coming through next week. Just always something happening. The other big thing, if you haven't noticed, Black Star Network is always rocking now. Check us out on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. We are currently streaming a number of things at the same time. You can check out our coverage from this week's midterm election, Black Votes Matter. That is streaming right now. You can check it out. You can check out the conversation around, and I want to have more discussion about this. The national town hall that Brother Roland, Dr. Julianne Malveaux hosted at Howard University. We want to talk about what was some of the things that was mentioned there, possibly getting some of those voices to come on to the show, and what's next for Black political power in this country. So you can certainly check that out as well, and a whole lot more. If you miss any past episodes of The Culture, you can find that at blackstarnetwork.com. But we are always trying to do our part to keep your voice and, more importantly, the culture going. There it is, folks. They're like, who is that guy? I feel like I'm a different guy at this point. My locks have grown, baby. Grown. So definitely check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure y'all check me out on all social media platforms and follow Black Star Network. You can follow Black Star on IG and Twitter, Black Star Network there on both platforms. For me, you can follow me, The Real Faraji, on IG. You can follow me on Twitter at Faraji. I love to connect with you. Let's continue to build the community of the online culture crew and so much more. Y'all keep me posted on stuff that I need to be worried, need to be looking at and thinking about. So definitely, let's continue to have those conversations. But it is Friday. It is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans from the armed forces, those Black men and women, those men and women in general who have put their lives on the line for us. And that is certainly not a cliche. I'm serious. They have sacrificed a lot. And so when they come home, we got to make sure that we take care of our veterans. If you have veterans in your family, just give them a shout out. My dad is a veteran. My sister is a veteran. They have done a lot and have gone through a lot, folks. They have really, really gone through a lot. And so we just keep them in our prayers, because veterans, as much as they have given, they are not always well received, especially here in the States. So we need to make sure that we do our part to support veterans, their health insurance, health care, mental health care, getting them affordable housing. I mean, when you fight for your country, you should not have to struggle for the basic needs of food, clothing, and shelters. You shouldn't be living on no ground or under a bridge, and you fought for this country. This doesn't make sense. So big shout out to all of our veterans. Happy Veterans Day. And this weekend, just enjoy your weekend, folks. I thank y'all so much for tuning in. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk to each other on Monday. And have a great weekend. Stay tuned. Up next at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Roland Barton Unfiltered. Talk to you on Monday, folks. Have a great weekend. Peace.